Hi everyone, my name is Scarlett. Welcome to Scar Investigates. Today we're going to look at an unsolved dismemberment case in 1996 which happened in Nanjing University in China. This is the most brutal yet unsolved case I have ever heard, and despite having several rounds of investigations and lots of attention on this case, it still remains unsolved to this day. There won't be any bloody images in this video, but if you are sensitive to themes of dismemberment and cannibalism, then I suggest you to turn off this video now and come back next time for another less disturbing case. Also, I just want to make a disclaimer that all the information I talk about later are just what I have compiled from the internet, and I feel the deepest sympathy to the family for their loss. So Diao Aiqing was a 19-year-old girl born in 1976 in Jiangsu province. She went to a university in Nanjing, which is a different city from her poorer town. It's a competitive feat to get in a good university, and everyone thought that she's having such a bright future waiting for her. Aiqing lived at a dorm in the university, and she was very excited to live in such a big city for her first time. Her friends recalled her to be a very quiet and easygoing person. Aiqing had a small group of friends, and sometimes she enjoyed being alone and reading some books. Aiqing was also very cautious of strangers, and she's the kind of person who would shy away if a stranger went near to her and started talking. Anyway, she's just kind of an introverted person who's into art like books and music. On January 10, 1996, the day of her disappearance, people recalled her leaving halfway through her lesson and went back to her dorm at noon. Then she slept until 7 p.m. on that day and left her dorm building after an argument with the building's management. Now, in Chinese universities, students are required to make their beds and fold their sheets every day. But on this evening, she left her bed and blankets unmade, which indicated to her roommates that she was likely to be back on that night. She was wearing a red coat when she left, and someone saw her buying stationery on the streets just before 8 p.m. And that was the last time that anyone had seen her alive. Aiqing was not reported missing for a while because her parents just thought, she's busy adjusting to her life in a new city. Keep in mind that back in the 90s, there was no instant messaging, and the closest thing would be a phone call. Her roommates also thought she wanted some time to herself, and she was just being her usual quiet self, and she did enjoy being alone sometimes. 9 days after she was last seen alive, a female street janitor saw a black plastic bag near a dumpster next to a construction site. She then opened the bag and saw some boiled meat inside the bag. It weighed about 1 kilogram or 2 pounds. Then she encountered another similar bag on another street with the same thing inside, which she thought to be some boiled pork. The next thing I'm gonna say is going to sound weird to most of my audience, and it's strange to me too, but she took both bags of meat home after her work on that day with the intention of making multiple meals out of it. Back in the 90s in China, meat was a luxury for the lower classes. So that amount of pork was considered a huge treat for her and her family. And due to the absence of mass internet access, food safety wasn't widely known or taken seriously back then. So anyway, as she was cleaning and washing the meat at her home, she found something to be immediately recognizable as 3 human fingers. And right away, she called the police. The rest of the victim's remains were then discovered in 12 bags in several places around the downtown and the campus. It was found that her body was dismembered into more than 2,000 pieces, as if processed by an experienced butcher. Some of the pieces were even cooked, and her head was also cooked, which further indicates cannibalistic themes. Her right ear was the only thing that was detached from her head, while the rest of the features, including her hair, remained completely intact. So the police were able to identify the victim easily. All her body remains were found in pieces, some cooked and some uncooked, in all these 12 bags. Some of these bags were even abandoned at some obvious places like bus stop and hospital, so it seems like the murderer didn't even try to hide his crime. Aiqing's clothes were found undamaged in a bag, suggesting no struggle before the murder happened. The forensics also concluded that Aiqing survived for 3 more days after her disappearance, and she didn't have anything other than water 1 day before she died. Word of this case soon spread around the city, and everyone was horrified because of the gruesome details in this case. The Nanjing police placed great importance to this case and set up a special team to conduct detailed investigations. The police also released some photos of the design of the bags on the news to urge civilians to assist in this investigation. Almost all residents in the city were questioned at that time, and all students in the university were interrogated and asked to provide an alibi. However, all the members in the victim's social circle were excluded after the investigation. So this case was gradually suspected as unprovoked killing. The police were able to identify her time of death and a rough area of where the murderer lived based on the locations of the bag's disposal. However, back in 1996, there were very few surveillance cameras to assist this investigation, so the case went cold after a few years. There isn't much information I can find on the internet reviewed by the police about this case, but there are some conspiracies and rumors flying on the internet, and I'm gonna tell you some of those. Some people think that the murderer had extensive anatomy experience, and the 2,000 pieces of human meat also reflect his ability to stomach this act. So he can be either a doctor, a butcher, a hunter, or a soldier. It was also suspected that Aiqing was murdered by someone that she knew because of her cautious personality and undamaged clothes. But she had only been in the city for 3 months. Who would know her and hate her so much in such a short time to kill her? Perhaps it was due to sexual motive, but the forensic wasn't able to find any proof for this speculation because her body has been cooked. And up until this day, the murderer hasn't been found, and he can still be walking among us. On January 19, 2016, it was the last day of the 20-year statute of limitation period for Nanjing University dismemberment case. After that, even if the murderer was caught, it was impossible to pursue criminal responsibility. But on the afternoon of January 20th, the police announced to the public that an exception will be applied to this case. So I hope the killer can be brought to justice, and meanwhile, I hope everyone stays safe and take care. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.